Hello, welcome to Forage Drops. My name is Liliane Silva. I'm the Forage's Research and Extension Specialist at Clemson University, and today I'll be talking briefly about the environmental benefits of grasslands. So let's get started. In the southern US, forage livestock systems are based on perennial grasses, mostly Bahia grass, Bermuda grass, and tall fescue. These, these grass systems, they are based on the use of chemical nitrogen fertilizer, which is required to support forage production and quality to sustain animal performance. Nitrogen fertilizer increases cost of production and the environmental impacts, including potential nitrate leaching and runoff, and the increase on emissions of greenhouse gases due to the production, storage, transportation, and application of nitrogen chemical fertilizer. This increasing concern about environmental impacts of grasslands have shifted the research priorities to incorporate more sustainable practices on grasslands over time. One viable option to decrease the reliance on use of chemical nitrogen fertilizer, is the use of legumes. Some of the options for our general region here includes rhizome perennial peanut, alfalfa, clovers, and sun hemp, among other legumes that we can grow and are adapted to our environmental conditions here. So when we're thinking about environmental benefits, we're basically talking about ecosystem services. Some of us are becoming more and more familiar with this term on the general media, just because there's been a large discussion about using this as a variable to pay producers for the services that their grasslands are providing. So this is becoming a market for payments, even for some producers. So when we're thinking about ecosystem services, we generally use this definition that ecosystem services are the benefits people obtain from ecosystems. And there are some 4 general categories, which are cultural, provisioning, regulating, and supporting services. And we often relate to the 2 last ones more when we are thinking about grasslands. And due to their importance, it is essential to better understand how we can improve management practices to be able to enhance ecosystem services delivery from grasslands. So some of them, when we are thinking about those environmental benefits, a major one is the nutrient return that we have on pastures, especially if we are grazing them. Because the animals help on redistributing the nutrients through excreta, but also they are involved on the consumption of the grass and will be affecting the deposition of the litter throughout as well. So the litter is basically the plant parts that end up senescing or not being consumed by the animals, and they return to the soil surface and will be decomposed over time. So in general, when we have systems that we do not replenish nutrients properly through fertilizers or other sources that will provide just nutrient return, the the plant litter will have a higher, an even higher importance on those areas because it might be one of the only sources through which the nutrients are returning to that area. Um, Generally, warm season grasses have low litter nitrogen concentration, which end up building high carbon to nitrogen ratios, which can lead to some issues as nutrient immobilization, which difficults the availability of some nutrients to the plants for absorption and use for their growth and production. Um, Something that's very important in grasslands is the ability to sequester carbon. And perennial grasslands are major storages, major reserves of carbon due to the limited soil disturbance and the continuous above and below ground plant biomass being inputted on those systems. Generally, soils under grasslands are responsible for large portions of carbon being sequestered over time. And in general, they can correspond, depending on the management and type of soil, they will correspond to more than half of the carbon being sequestered in those areas. And here on the bottom is just a representation of how we measure. So we have a pasture on the right, and we use some cores to collect samples to determine soil, to determine the roots, root mass, and that we have on those samples. And through those, we are able to measure other responses as well to estimate accumulation of nutrients in the soil. So we do analyze the soil, but also we end up needing to collect some response from the plants from that below ground plant portion as well to be able to correlate to those changes that we're seeing on nutrient pools on soil over time. So this ability to sequester atmospheric carbon from atmosphere and store in the soil contributes to climate change mitigation. And generally, carbon sequestration is affected by fertilization and improved management strategies as legume adoption, for example, which will contribute to greater biomass production and quality of that material that's going to be deposited back in the area. So currently, ongoing studies have been focused on better understanding the effects of management strategies on carbon accumulation, including species composition and improved management practices. So like I mentioned before, when we have animals grazing pastures, they are able to return up to 80% of the nutrients they consume back to the pastures that they are at. So when we are able to do a proper management of that grazing, this can be an ally to optimize the excreta distribution throughout the whole area, which will help on achieve a proper forage production and quality throughout the area. Generally, rotational grazing may be more effective on the distribution of excreta, just because we can better um, distribute the animals and allow them to have shorter access for shorter periods of time to a specific area, so they will consume and distribute excreta more uniformly on those areas. So with this, I conclude today's video. I want to thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate in reaching me through this email on the screen. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next Forage Drops.